Hey everyone, and welcome to the tutorial series for the Procedural City Generator. In this short video, I'll show you how to use the elevators that come with PCG. So, two things. One, we want to understand how the elevators actually work, and then I'm going to show you how to add your own elevator to your buildings. It's actually going to be a fairly short video, but I felt like it was a very nice follow-up to my previous video, which was all about building interiors. So if you haven't watched that video, please go back and watch it because it's going to be almost like a continuation of that video. So in the previous video, we talked about the interior blueprint, the main class, and how all of the different floors spawn and despawn as the player goes up and down the building. You can change the settings of the triggers. You can change the static, interactive, or random actors that spawn on every floor. All of that good stuff was well understood. But one thing I didn't talk about was the global spawns for the interiors of the buildings. And I even mentioned on the video that an elevator would be a perfect example of what you wanted to do as far as a global spawn. Because what happens is, no matter where I am in this building, I always want my elevator to be present. So I don't want to tie my elevator to a specific floor, because then as soon as I leave that floor, the elevator will despawn. So if you click on the interior class here for industrial, if you were following that video, and you go all the way past setup, you'll see that we have another category called global spawns. And this is what was on that graph as a red square. And for global spawns, it's basically the exact same settings that you've seen before, but it's going to be in this blueprint. So for global spawns, in this case, we actually have the elevator blueprint that is spawned here. And you can see that we actually have a location and a rotation. And we use the same method as I showed in the previous video to get these values. So as I am, I'm going to hit play here. As I am starting the game and everything spawns in the scene, notice how the elevator also spawns. If I escape, you'll see that this is just an empty shaft, right? This building basically has the shaft for the elevator and the holes that are going to be made for the doors. So as soon as I hit play, notice that the elevator spawns in, and if I come here, I can open the door. Oops. All right, let me just kind of, there you go. And then when I go in and I go into this panel, I can choose the floor. I can press the button and you see that the elevator, the cage of the elevator is actually going up to the specific floor. And once it gets to that floor, obviously the doors will open. That's it. And if the elevator cage is in a separate floor, so right now it's stuck on the 4th floor or the ceiling, the roof, and I come here and I click on the button, the elevator is now coming down physically all the way from wherever it is, coming to where I am right now. All right, so this is basically how things work. But let's actually see how things are set up without this. So if you click here and you go into the global actors list and you click on the little magnifying glass, it'll actually take you to the blueprint that is spawning. This is the elevator that I specifically created for this industrial building. If you go up a level to elevators, you'll see that we actually have two base classes. The elevator base, that's the actual cage that will be moving up and down, and you have elevator frames. These frames are going to spawn one frame per floor, and that's going to be where the button resides. So no matter where you are in the building, you're going to interact with the frame, and the frame will then call the base or the cage to go up and down to meet that frame. So if we go down to industrial and I just grab this elevator and I put him here, you'll see basically what this looks like. It's basically a little box I call the cage with 2 doors and then the panel inside. And if I click play, you'll see that automatically, based on the settings that I had, there are 4 frames that are automatically spawned at specific heights. These are supposed to be matching the floor heights. And then you have the cage here. So normally you wouldn't do it this way, but I'm going to do it at runtime because I'm just trying to demonstrate. You would come here and you would set a current frame, and that frame would be where the elevator starts. That's going to be frame 1. And once you do that and I possess, and I go to the frame and I click on the button, then the elevator matches the height, the door opens, and then I go to the panel, I press E, and then I can select the floor 2, press the button, and you see that the elevator goes to where that second frame is, and then the doors open. It's really that simple. So let's go to the 4th floor, and the same thing happens. So you can see we're here. All right, so what are the different settings that you have here? So very simply, if you select the actual blueprint, you'll see that we have, same as the interior blueprint, we have the number of floors, then we have a floor height, and we have movement speed and open door delay. So very self-explanatory, but you also have the option to use floor heights. And in this case, that is the exact option that is enabled, because in this building, each floor has a different height because they're not the same height. So depending on the mesh that you have, if your building has different heights per floor, select use floor height and manually put in the actual height where you want the elevator to appear. And it may take some tweaking. You may start with a value here, click play, have the elevator spawn, and then the elevator maybe is a little too high, so then you lower the value here. So there's going to be some tweaking, but hopefully once you're done with that tweaking for that building, then you don't have to tweak it ever again, right? So floor heights, or if the building has the exact same heights per floor, then you can use these values. You have move speed, which is pretty self-explanatory. So it's 100. If you wanted to have it much quicker, let's say like 400, for example. And again, I wanted to set the current frame to the first one. This, unfortunately, I have to do it this way because this is not spawned properly. But remember, we changed the speed to 400. So now if we go to floor number 4, look how much quicker we go. So you can play with the speed there. And then obviously there's the delay, or you can even do a teleport to the floor. So if you have a really tall building, say like the Empire State Building, and you don't want to physically go from floor 1 to floor 100, you may want to select that option, right? So just to demonstrate here. And again, we go to floor number 4. We press the button, and as you can see, there are some bugs that I still need to work out here, but we are on the 4th floor. We teleported to that floor immediately. So a little bit more polish needed here, but this is basically the idea of how to use the elevator. And obviously, you spawn the elevator, I would suggest, as a global spawn on the interior. You can use this blueprint here as a guide. You spawn the actual blueprint at the correct location and rotation. And then the blueprint itself is going to be a child of the elevator base blueprint. So when you open this, you'll see that we have just the cage here with a bunch of different components. And then the settings would be right here under setup. So if you wanted to create a new elevator, you could easily just duplicate this one or come all the way up to elevator, here, and simply create a child blueprint of the elevator base by going like this. And then once you have the elevator specifically for your building, then you can change the meshes, for example, for the doors. The cage itself can be a different mesh, right? These are just static meshes, right? Say that your building had a much smaller elevator and the shaft was different. Then you would have to model a different cage for that elevator, for that building. Then you can have a specific model for the panel. These are all static meshes. Then you can have door right and door left, again, simple static meshes. And you can even have the light mesh here change. So everything is configurable. What's important here is the code to have the elevator go up and down and generate the frames, and automatically the menu here is created, as you can see, dynamically based on the number of floors. If you have 20 floors, when you go in there and you click on the menu, you'll see a drop-down list of 20 floors, and you can select the floor that you want. So that is pretty much it, guys. Pretty quick and easy, but I wanted to kind of call this out because it's really important. If you're making buildings, or maybe you buy a building from the marketplace and for some reason it has that elevator shaft, you can go ahead and use this procedural elevator blueprint. Or I know there are some really nice elevators in the marketplace. If you want to use those, feel free to do that. It'll be the exact same process. Instead of using my blueprint class, you would simply use that blueprint class from the marketplace, and you will put it right here as a global spawn. All right, guys, hopefully that helps you out. If you have any questions, again, leave a comment in the here in the video on YouTube, or join Discord and let me know what you think. I will talk to you guys in the next video. Thanks.